Richard Baldwin is a world-renowned expert on global trade and economics who currently works for various organizations including the OECD and the World Bank. He was also an economic advisor to former US President George H.W. Bush. We wanted here at Arirang News to get his take on the big economic issues of the day. And since he's in South Korea for the annual Jeju Forum, our business correspondent, Kim Hyesung, who was in Jeju, managed to grab a few minutes with him to hear his thoughts on globalization and trade. So let's take a look.
You said future globalization will be totally different. What exactly is globalization 4.0, a term you presented at the Davos Forum and here at Jeju Forum?
Up till now, globalization has mostly been companies taking advantage of price differences in goods. But the really large price differences in the world that exist today is in salaries of professionals and service sector workers. Now, up till now, people couldn't take advantage of those differences because of the high cost of face-to-face. But digital technology is changing that reality and making it possible for people to essentially telecommute internationally. We'll have a big wave of service sector globalization.
Then what about South Korean companies? How can they take advantage of globalization 4.0?
Well, so the big famous South Korean companies are in manufacturing, and that's okay. But probably they'll be able to take advantage of lower cost service provisions doing it. But look, what I'm actually looking at is lots of new companies. So one of my analogies that I like is eBay or Alibaba. These were brand new companies that broke the business model, online retailing. And I'm thinking that will be lots of companies that rise, providing services overseas, organizing domestically.
Right, Professor, we talk about globalization 4.0, but ironically, we're seeing a rise in protectionism across the world in recent years with the US-China trade war and the trade spat between South Korea and Japan. What's your assessment of this risk?
Well, that is very serious. I mean, I think the major dominant thing right now is the U.S. has more or less declared trade war on everybody. The U.S., Canada, Mexico, EU, Japan, Korea, Australia, everybody, India now recently, and people are starting to protect back. So that's somewhat disruptive. But on the other hand, many of these countries are starting to liberalize trade among themselves. And more deeply, I think that our economies are so deeply knit that we'll find a way to make it work.
With regards to the South Korea-Japan trade spat, what's your advice on what the South Korean government can do to resolve this trade?
Again, you diversify your markets, you diversify your sources. That's a little too late now. And I think the legal recourse to the WTO is the obvious thing to do. But of course, many of these things involve diplomacy deep down. I think maybe in a different world, the U.S. would have stepped in to prevent them from fighting. But this current administration is not in the mood for that kind of restraint. The problems that are coming now go way beyond economics. And there I can just, as an optimist and a global citizen, hope that it works out.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Professor.
My pleasure.